to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to our next item then, which is agenda item number 9, presentation concerning the Public Education Foundation's programs and COVID-19 response efforts. And we have Kirsten Sear, president here from the Public Education Foundation.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to see you all.
Thanks for waiting to the end.
I'm happy to do it. I learned a lot. Chair Dennis, members of the committee, my name is Kirsten Sear. I am the president of the Public Education Foundation, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you today to talk about more of the response from nonprofits and public-private partnerships to solve some of the problems you heard about this morning, which of course are considerable in our school system. I want to thank Communities in Schools and the Children's Cabinet for their previous presentations. I hope while some of what we heard this morning was obviously alarming, and of course those of us who are in the schools every day know the state of education right now. The good news that I see coming out of this is that I see more collaboration amongst our community partners than we've ever seen before, and I hope we can harness that energy and continue to solve problems together in public schools. And that's a lot of what I'll be talking about today. So first, I'd like to start with the vision and the mission of the Public Education Foundation, because we get a lot of questions about that. We are closely affiliated with the Clark County School District, although we do some work statewide. And our vision is that the community is united to ensure that every public school student in Clark County can succeed. Again, some of the concerns that we heard this morning seem awfully large. We believe that the only way that we can solve the problems in our school district and in public schools around the state is by coming together to bring about solutions. We are working to meet the immediate critical education needs of our public schools. We'll talk about that a little bit more today. We also work very closely with the business community when they are considering making investments in public schools. They often work through us or ask us for our advice and suggestions on how they can invest in public schools. We work very closely with the Community Engagement Department at CCSD to link businesses with schools and to help meet the strategic goals of the Clark County School District. And just a side note, we celebrated 30 years last year, so we are on year 31 of serving public schools. I'm going to start quickly by talking about some of the programs that we participated in to address COVID-19 response. Tammy and folks at Communities in Schools obviously mentioned the Direct Care to Kids program. That's where a bunch of us, different nonprofits, got together when school buildings closed. We said it's very concerning that kids are at home. This was before they had access to their Chromebooks even. And we were very concerned that they were losing instructional time. And so we distributed books. These are some kiddos who got some books and art supplies from our Teacher Superstore. Communities in Schools lined up hygiene packets. There was just all sorts of wonderful things in these kits, and we know that they were very much appreciated by the students who we served. Also important to note that Spread the Word was involved in this. You can see a lot of the books that they helped us distribute. We also included Sands, CARES, AT&T, Cox, and Siegel Suites. We were very creative in figuring out how to distribute to students at a time when we couldn't be on school campuses. Tammy also mentioned the Connecting Kids Nevada initiative, which really, truly, she was the person who was running that family support center and did so much work to reach out to families, again, at a time when we couldn't work through our schools and we had to rethink how we reached out to our families. And we were really proud to come together and ensure that Nevada was one of the first states that could confirm that every student utilizing online learning had access to a Chromebook and to internet at home. Again, that was just bringing in new partners and problem solving, which is what we specialize in. Obviously, most of the students at Clark County ended up being connected through high-speed internet through Cox, but we worked very closely with individual families to find cellular options for them. We had families in rural areas that obviously needed special support, and so it just really was a wonderful collaboration of organizations coming together to solve problems. want to talk to you about some of our foundational programs. We're very proud of our Scholarships Plus program. This is a student named Brandon, and you can see he got a scholarship last year, and he's planning on getting his bachelor's and his master's. And he wrote to us that he was planning on graduating with both of those degrees, and he said, "Just saying that brings tears to my eyes. I am the child of a single parent from a trailer park. I am not supposed to be here. With this gift, I can now break a stigma, make my mother proud, and change the name of my lineage for the better. All thanks to this amazing opportunity. Thank you." Our scholarships program connects donors. It's another case where we are connecting the community with the needs of our students. We connect donors with students who need scholarships. And Senator Dondero Loop's family has a small scholarship that runs through us. We have everything from smaller scholarships up to MGM and Penn Gaming run all of their scholarships for children of their dependents of their employees. We do scholarships for NV Energy, for Cox, for a lot of the major organizations, and then we do scholarships for families. Lots of times when people have a teacher who passes away or a family member who passes away who they want to honor, they set up a scholarship through us, and we're very proud to continue their legacy with scholarships. Last year, we awarded a record-breaking $3 million through more than 800 scholarships, and I'm very proud to say that this year we're going to award more than 900 scholarships totaling more than $4 million. That comes from more than 300 donors. So again, we're working with everyone from families to small businesses to very large businesses who want to ensure that students have the opportunity to go to college. We're incredibly proud of the students that we serve. Our ultimate goal is to provide scholarships to a group of students that reflect the diversity of our school district. 53% of our PEF scholarship recipients are the first in their family to attend college. Our diversity numbers are pretty incredible. Our diversity numbers basically mirror those of the diversity of UNLV, which is one of the most diverse universities in the country. As I said, our ultimate goal is to mirror the diversity of CCSD. We're also very proud, the last statistics from the National Clearinghouse, that 79% of our scholarship recipients graduated with their four-year degree, compared to 60%, which is the national average. We're incredibly proud of that, and our next goals with our scholarship program are to provide more mentorships between previous scholarship recipients and our current scholarship recipients to increase that graduation rate even higher, and to provide more scholarships for certifications, for workforce certifications and two-year degrees, because we know we need to offer a variety of options for all students in their learning type. It's interesting, last year we had about 18,000 applications. It was by far a record year for us. This year we've had about 16,500, so it was slightly down. I'm sure you've seen a lot of coverage in national media about how fewer students are taking the option of going to a four-year university or even a two-year college. We'll keep watching this. That 18,000 last year was sort of an anomaly. The 16,000 this year is kind of more of what we typically have seen. So we definitely haven't seen a huge drop-off like some organizations have seen. This is our PEF Teacher Superstore. We're very proud of this program. The average teacher spends about $480 a year on school supplies. As we think through some of these staffing shortages that our superintendents were talking about today, of course, we need to think about ways that we can retain our current educators. We absolutely believe that teachers should not have to dig so deeply into their pockets to provide basic supplies for their students. And so our Teacher Superstore offers all the supplies that our teachers tell us they need the most. We actually did a survey of teachers this year to ask them what supplies they needed the most, and it's notebooks, pencils, markers. Really, they need a lot of treasure box items as incentives for their students, obviously copy paper. We did change our operations during online learning to ensure that we were offering the supplies that teachers said they needed the most for online learning. They really loved those little dry erase boards and dry erase markers because kids could write answers to problems on them and hold them up for the camera. We also have been working with a lot of businesses lately to adopt schools. so that they can adopt all of the teachers at a specific elementary, middle, or high school. And it's been, again, a wonderful way to have the community show teachers their support, especially at a time when teachers are going through a lot. We're really proud that 92% of our public schools utilize the Teacher Superstore. Artists with Kids, we obviously have a wonderful art community here, and you'll hear me say a couple times that we have programs in place to support the strategic goals of the Clark County School District. We're working very closely with them on their mentoring goals, and so through the Artists with Kids program, we are going to be connecting community artists with students for mentoring so that they can see different paths into careers that involve the arts. We also have connected students with performance so they could perform at the Smith Center and display their artwork in our gallery. It's been a wonderful way to increase confidence of students. We had a student, we continued to do art shows even while our gallery was closed because of COVID. We had students actually create art that helped them express their feelings about COVID, and it was incredibly powerful. And we displayed their artwork online. So that was a wonderful thing. We've heard a lot today about how do we meaningfully engage with our families and how do we develop relationships, authentic and trusting relationships with families. We have been running the Family Learning Program for several years now. We serve more than 800 families, and we base all of that on the National Center for Family Learning, which is research-based. It's a two-pronged approach to solving poverty, multi-generational poverty. We help families, largely families who are not native English speakers, many of them who are not, the parents didn't actually go through our school system. They might have gone through a school system in another country. We help them understand our school system, how it works. We provide them with wraparound services such as English classes, financial literacy classes, help connect them with workforce training, and then we also help them navigate the school system themselves so that they can support their child's education and feel empowered to support their child's education. And so I'll talk a little bit more about our next phase of family engagement soon. Tammy kind of alluded to it, but we are very proud of the work that we did during COVID as well. We adapted all of our programming to help families understand, be more digitally literate so that they could support their child's learning at home, helping with Infinite Campus, Canvas, Google Meets, all of the programs that their kids were suddenly asking them to help with as families were thrown into this role of being another teacher to their student. So I've alluded to some of our new programs that we are creating to solve some of the problems that we heard about this morning. Again, I'll just emphasize that we see our role at PEF is creating community coalitions to help solve problems in education. And so that's what you'll be seeing here. As Tammy alluded to, we were very proud to lead a coalition of groups that just applied for a pretty major federal grant that would create a statewide family engagement center. And this would pull in all of our school districts, major nonprofit organizations such as Communities in Schools, Children's Cabinet, Boys Town, Green Our Planet, the Nevada PTA, Vegas PBS, the list goes on of the partners that we engaged on this grant. And what we would be doing is creating a statewide family engagement center that would be working to ensure that from birth until graduation from high school, that our students and their families, we engage with them aligned with the Nevada Family Engagement Framework that was adopted officially last year. And the 5 principles of that framework align with a lot of what we heard today in terms of approaching families from an asset-based perspective instead of a deficit-based perspective, keeping equity in mind, training families so that they can be empowered to support their child's education, creating trusted relationships with families, all of these things that we've actually heard as a common thread today. It would be ensuring that all of our family engagement statewide is more aligned with those principles, and also providing more resources to organizations that are interested in kind of beefing up their family engagement efforts. It was a 5-year grant that would total more than $4 million in federal funds. But what we were really also very proud of is that we provided more than $2 million in matching funds. So again, we've heard a lot today about public-private partnerships and the importance of all of us coming together, finding different revenue streams to solve problems. And so this is another great example of matching up public and private funds to solve problems in education. I also want to acknowledge that the Nevada Grant Lab, who some of you might be aware of, led by Miles Dixon, they're working very hard to bring more federal funding to Nevada, and they helped us with this grant. It was incredibly helpful. It was our first federal grant. It was a monster. I have not done one before, and we learned a lot. And their comment to us was, even if you don't get this grant, we helped build the capacity so you can apply for the next one, which we intend to do. So we were very excited about that. This picture is the head of our family engagement, Dr. Beverly Mathis, with some parents at Matt Kelly Elementary School, where we have had a family learning program for several years now. The other thing that keeps me up at night when I think about education is obviously the teacher shortage crisis, which we know is a national issue that has been made worse during the pandemic, but it is especially concerning here in Nevada. I'm sure you all are aware that our systems of higher ed turn out about 900 teacher candidates a year, but statewide we hire, even before COVID, we're hiring about 2,200 teachers a year. So obviously we are importing a lot of our teachers. We need to figure out as a community how we better recruit and retain teachers. We need to have the retention conversation as well. This particular program, our Teacher Pathway Program, which we just officially announced this week, is a partnership with UNLV and other community organizations. I've been in education since 2011. I can tell you that this is the best coalition I've seen to address the teacher shortage crisis. I really appreciate that's UNLV, Nevada State College, Department of Education, CCSD, CSN, other local groups like the Public Education Foundation. We are meeting regularly. We're looking at the barriers to becoming a teacher, and we are trying to figure out solutions on how to get people into the classroom. We at PEF think it's especially important that we focus on a grow your own local pipeline of people, because as I mentioned before, we have been importing a lot of teachers. Think about if you're a young person who just got out of college, you move to a new state, how likely are you to stay if you don't find your community very quickly, especially with all of our rising housing costs and everything. We believe it's critical that we build a pipeline of local educators who understand our communities. They may already even be in our system if they're a support professional in our PERS system, and they have their support system here so that they're more likely to stay in our classrooms. So, sorry, let me back up here for a second. Our teacher pathway program is going to focus on two groups of potential teachers: current support professionals and students who are in CCSD's current teacher prep programs, of which there's several thousand CCSD students who are in various teacher prep programs across the district. CCSD is doing some great work, and so are we now, to try to nurture them and mentor them more so that we are on top of them. We're creating a plan for them to go get their teaching degree, to overcome all the obstacles that they might face, especially as a first-generation person in their family going to college. So as part of this work, we actually surveyed CCSD support professionals to see if they would be interested in becoming teachers and how far along they are in the process. It was absolutely fascinating data. First of all, another reason why we want to focus on recruiting support professionals is we know that roughly about 80% of our students identify as coming from a diverse background, but it's about the opposite of that. About 80%, slightly less of our teachers are white. We also know that it's all the research indicates that having more diverse teachers in our classroom is beneficial for all students. It's just an incredible off-the-charts way to increase student achievement. So we need to, in addition to focusing on recruiting local teachers, we need to ensure that we're diversifying our teacher workforce. So this is another wonderful reason why focusing on recruiting support professionals who are already in the CCSD system is a good way to go. Almost 65% of our support professionals identify as coming from a diverse background. We also were honestly surprised to learn that more than 65% of our support professionals already have 60 or more college credits, which means that they're poised to enter into an educational program and complete their bachelor's degree and become teachers. You can see that 23% of them have up to 60 credits and about 11% of them have their high school degree. So we actually have some support professionals who are not that far away from completing their degree and potentially becoming teachers. One of the biggest obstacles for our potential teachers is passing the general knowledge praxis exam that they must pass before they go into an education program. You can see that only 28% of our support professionals have taken and passed some or all portions of the praxis knowledge test. One of the things that we're going to be doing in our mentorship program is we're going to be working with support professionals to provide tutoring or other online resources so that they can pass the praxis. I can't tell you how many people that we have spoken to who are very interested in becoming teachers, maybe even have their bachelor's degree, and they can't pass the praxis. It's a real obstacle for potential teachers. We also asked them what the biggest obstacle was as they think about becoming teachers. Not surprisingly, 54% of them said that they are concerned about financial aid to complete their bachelor's. 38% mentioned that praxis test I just mentioned. 49% mentioned balancing work, home, and college, and 29% said selecting a program. So in looking at this data, it was very clear to us there's a large number of support professionals in our system who are diverse. They know our kids. They're obviously committed to our kids. They're invested in PERS, so they're more likely to stay with us. And frankly, a lot of them, if they became teachers, would almost double their salary immediately. So this is a group of people we think it's really worth investing in as we think about our teacher pipeline. In the fall of 2022, we will be launching a mentorship program where we will be mentoring 80 support professionals. We'll probably start with folks who already have their associate's degree, those 60 degrees or 60 college credits or more. And we will be helping them pass the praxis test. We will be helping them apply for financial aid, figure out what program will work best for them, and also connecting them with resources to overcome some of the other obstacles. You saw how many of them were concerned about balancing work, home, and college. We'll be connecting them with resources such as transportation, childcare, all of those other things that might inhibit them from finishing their degree and becoming a teacher. We're also going to be doing a pilot with 20 students who are currently, or who next year will be seniors in CCSD in one of the teacher prep programs, and figuring out how we can best create a pathway for them, what sort of obstacles they need to overcome as they become teachers. And again, we're working closely with the systems of higher education to ensure that we create a pathway that is best for each individual person who's interested in becoming a teacher. I can't emphasize this enough that this issue is viewed as such a crisis now. That's the bad news. The good news is that our systems and our organizations are working better than ever together. I'm sitting at tables with UNLV, Nevada State College, CSN, Department of Ed, CCSD, and we're all saying there's no competition, there's no turf. It's really just an all-in, how do we create better pathways for people to become teachers? And so that's really good news. So So in the long term, and I wanted to point out too that this is a teacher. Her name is Jennifer Lopez, and she works at Rono Elementary School, which is, I know, a school very close to your heart, Senator Dennis. But this whole mentoring program was actually piloted because of the work of Shelley Cruz Crawford, who's the principal at Rono, and she has mentored multiple support professionals to become teachers. And it was really by watching her and how she was, including Jennifer here, who teaches second grade. It was really by watching her and seeing what she's been able to create that we are replicating that district-wide. So I wanted to give her that shout out. So as we think about moving forward, obviously, in some ways, this morning's testimony was very sobering, not surprising, but sobering. I was thinking about comments that our chairwoman, Jan Jones Blackhurst, had made at the State of the Schools last week, the CCSD State of the Schools, where she said that she thinks there's two things we need to do for public schools. Number one, she said we need to stabilize public schools and have a period of consistency and stability so that there's time for our educators and our students and our families to regroup and heal. And I think we heard some wonderful testimony today from organizations that are on that track. And then number two, she said we need to reaffirm our commitment to public schools. I think that's why an organization like the Public Education Foundation is so critical at a time like this, because we will be continuing to bring the community together so that they see solutions that will actually work. Sometimes I think our problems in education feel so big that people don't know where to start. And I think that's why it's so important for us to bring together coalitions like the ones that we're talking about with family engagement, scholarships, teacher pipeline. This is all what we need to do together to unite to help our public schools. I also want to mention that we're working very closely with CCSD on their strategic goals, bringing the community in to support their strategic goals. So for example, they have a goal of ensuring that every school is adopted by a business. And so we're working closely with them to make sure that that happens so that schools feel like they have a community partner to come in and help them with needs big and small, but also again, so they have that community support. We're working very closely with the Family Engagement Department on creating training that's in the strategic plan, the Focus 2024 strategic plan, so that there's more training provided to educators specifically aligned with the Nevada Educator Performance Framework. Again, that real relationship-based, culturally relevant family engagement. And we're also linking up CCSD with various resorts on the Strip. One of the goals in the Focus 2024 plan is to provide more customer service training to the people who are on the front lines of the schools. I think all of us have probably been in schools. You've had different experiences based on which school you walk into. And there's a goal in the Focus 2024 strategic plan to link the wonderful customer service, world-class customer service that we have on our Strip with training provided to people on the front lines at CCSD, again, to have our businesses support our educators and provide this sort of resources into our schools. So those are a few of the other projects that we will be working on coming up. And I'd be happy to take any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Yes, Assemblywoman Miller. And then we'll go to Assemblywoman Hardy. I see your hand.
Okay, thank you, Chair Dennis. And I literally say at the beginning of every one, I'm not going to ask a question this time, but I have failed miserably today. So my question is, and it's along the lines, the same questions, when it comes to the data. So on page 19, I believe it was, the data, yes, there it is, about that literally over 65% of our support staff already have at least 60 credits or an associate's degree, which is very promising. My curiosity is just how many support professionals do we technically have in the district? Because we know support professionals are not just classroom aides. That's everyone from custodial to bus driving to food service to maintenance. So how many do we have in the district? How many participated in the interview? And of the ones who participated in the interview, is there a distinction between who's already working directly with students, meaning, I mean, everyone works directly with students, but like in the classroom with the students?
Yeah, these are all great questions. We have, I know, more than 20,000 support professionals district-wide. I could get the actual response rate to you. It was more than 50%, I do remember. Of those, it was about 1,400 who expressed interest in becoming teachers. So this particular data point is of the 1,400 who expressed interest in becoming teachers.
Okay. And
And we do have a breakdown of, so it's an excellent point on the classroom aid issue, especially because, and I meant to mention, I didn't say Kirsten Sear for the record. I apologize. I meant to mention before that I was really grateful to Senator Dennis and those of you who helped pass the bill last year. One of the obstacles that we identified as we were looking at this pathway from becoming a support professional to a teacher is that even if you're a classroom aide and you are becoming a teacher, you actually previously had to quit your job if you were going to do student teaching. If you're making $20,000-ish a year, you cannot afford to quit your job for a semester and pay your tuition for your student teaching and be a student teacher. Like, that's just not possible. And so some wonderful things have happened. Senator Dennis helped pass a bill that said if you're teaching in the area that you're studying or student teaching in the area that you're studying, you can continue to be employed at a district. And I know that that's working right now in terms of current classroom aides. So if I'm a classroom aide in a special ed class and I'm student teaching, I no longer have to quit my job to then student teach in my area, which is wonderful. I know that CCSD and other districts are now looking at how they can expand that to other support professionals, because there are people in front offices, janitors, bus drivers who want to become teachers. There's such a shortage of all of those, as we have heard today, that it's really hard for them to pull someone off of one job to then go and be in a classroom aide. So that's what they're figuring out right now. But that was really helpful. And I just wanted to mention also that the Nevada Department of Education has allocated some ARP funds to provide stipends to people when they are student teachers. Again, when we're talking to potential teachers, that is huge. That is really huge. So those are two wonderful things that have happened, especially for support professionals who want to become teachers. It's a very long-winded way of saying that I am more than happy to get that breakdown for you, though, of where they are in terms of being classroom aides or other. I just wanted to point out it's easier now for classroom aides to become teachers than for others, but we're working on that.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate that plug. Thank you.
And because I worked on that bill, I know that those 1,400 that were identified were individuals that are already in the classroom that just needed to finish. And I think the thing that I really liked about the data was that they were individuals that work in the schools, but they live in the community, in the neighborhoods where the schools are, so they actually reflect the student body. And so I think that to be able to identify 1,400 individuals that were willing to become teachers but just needed a little help by some of the things that we did by passing the bill, and then some of these other things that they're working on, I think is a great way to find some teachers that are already committed to the community and don't plan to necessarily move out when they become a teacher. So.
If I may, to Senator Dennis, Kirsten Sear, for the record, we've actually done two surveys now, so we've done another one since you did that bill. And so the good news is it was about 1,500 people who wanted to become teachers, both in the first survey and the second survey. So we did not see a huge decrease in the number of people who wanted to become teachers. And we're trying to keep that data fresh. We're staying in touch with them. Even if we can't mentor them all right now, we're continuing to stay in touch with them to offer up whatever, here's some praxis information you might need or that kind of thing, so that we can, again, create a relationship with them for when they're ready.
Yep. Thank you. Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, and thank you for being here today. And another, I think, wonderful organization that we have in our state and our communities that are doing things to help with the issues that we see in education. And I think sometimes we get focused on, what's wrong and what the problems are. And yes, we need to talk about them and identify them. But I think it's refreshing to hear these presentations of what is happening that's good, that's positive. We have some hope, but there's some bright lights of things happening that are making progress and addressing some of these issues that we face. And I think it also sheds light on the fact that it's not incumbent upon us as lawmakers to figure it all out, or the districts, but we have these great organizations, we have community partners, we have public-private partnerships. Everybody's willing to participate and find ways to help our kids and to help our families. And so I'm just really appreciative to hear these things today. And that we as lawmakers want to work with you and hear your ideas, just like this bill we just talked about, of how do we get the people that are in the schools that want to be teachers, what can we do to help them get their degrees or help them pass the praxis test, just things like that, maybe they're a simple fix and it's just, something we can do legislatively or whatever that can then help those people to be teachers. So my question is, I've been aware of the Public Education Foundation for a while, and I remember both my daughters applying for different scholarships and such. But how are you actually like in the schools? How do families and students find out about, say, like the statewide family engagement center or applying for scholarships? We just found it out by going on the internet and searching and stuff, but who in like a high school or somewhere, how do they find out? Is it through counselors or teachers, or is there some way, because some families may not even know about any of these programs that are there to assist them?
Kirsten Sear for the record. That is a wonderful question. We have a list throughout our scholarship season of all of the high schools and how many students have applied from every high school. So we are constantly looking to see that one high school is not more represented than another. We go into high schools to make presentations. One-on-one or in classrooms. We work with school counselors, and we work with a lot of organizations that work with parents. Like I said, it is deeply rooted in our program that our ultimate goal, our North Star, is to have recipients that reflect the diversity of the students that we serve. And so, like I said, that's largely by tracking the way we have accomplished what we have accomplished, which I'm very proud of. There are very few scholarship programs that can boast the diversity rates that we have. The way that we have done that is just by really tracking how many applicants are from each school, going in and making presentations to schools that haven't had as many applicants. There was a mention of FAFSA earlier too, and we have started doing more FAFSA presentations along with State Treasurer's Office, trying to find partners who can talk to our students and our families about FAFSA applications. So we're just being creative, again, in whatever partnerships we can come about, monitoring the numbers as best we can, addressing when we see a deficit in a certain neighborhood or area. But we know that more needs to be done. I mentioned that 16,500 applications was slightly lower than last year, but if you think about the fact that we have 900 scholarships, it really does show that the need is there. So our hope is to continue growing the amount of scholarships that we can award.
Well, thank you. And I'm just grateful for all that you do. And, compared to 10, 20 years ago, there seems to be so many organizations and so much assistance that's available to students and families. And so, I'm just really pleased to see that. And thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much. And if you don't mind, I'll do a quick PSA to my fellow senator there for the PEF. The scholarships that my family has, one of them is very journalism or communications based, because that's where my father's focus was. So the journalism advisors in the schools are reaching out to their students. So the other scholarship that my mother has is very girl-based, I guess, young lady-based. And so sometimes that's the other thing that happens with some of these scholarships is they're very focused. And that's great, because then those counselors within the high schools can reach out to the specific coaches or teachers or advisors, whatever they are in those high schools. So it's a great program, and thank you for asking that question, and I hope you don't mind if I jumped in there.
Please.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Senator Buck.
Thank Thank you, Chair Dennis, and thank you so much for your presentation. I like the work that you're doing with the teacher pipeline. We know that that is a significant concern to everyone in the state, from substitute pools that you can leverage to support staff professionals, parents sometimes, second career people in business and industry. So thank you so much for your work in that sphere, and hopefully we can grow that program to keep up with the need. So I'm very impressed with the Teacher Resource Center that you open up to the entire, all teachers to come in and get their supplies. And so I had heard that that was being relocated, so I just wondered, on slide 9, I see a picture of it, and it definitely is very helpful for teachers who have to purchase their own materials and that. And so where is that going to be relocated, or if it is?
Oh, Kirsten Sear for the record, Chair Dennis, and members of the committee, Senator Buck. We're incredibly proud of our Teacher Superstore. I think you can see in this picture that it feels like a Target. And as someone who loves Target, I can tell you, you walk in there and it feels nice and bright, and we have some wonderful staff there who welcome teachers. We really want them to feel like it's a special experience for them when they go, because we do need to make our teachers feel special. As you mentioned, we have recently, just on Monday, we announced that we have sold our building to UNLV, and we are going to be moving most of our offices onto the UNLV campus, but the Teacher Superstore will be moving to a location. We're going to announce it in the next week or so, but it's very close in the Decatur 215 area. Will be just as beautiful as this one. We want it to be a special experience for teachers, and we are excited about having a location that's closer to a freeway, because one thing that teachers told us, we're right across from UNLV right now, and it's not fun to go down Maryland at any time of day, let alone right after school. And so we are excited to have a location that's more central and closer to freeway for teachers to access after school and on Saturdays. South. Thank you for asking.
Yes, go ahead.
And just one more follow-up. So what is your relationship also between the Public Education Foundation and the Leadership Institute of Nevada?
Chair Dennis, members of the committee, through you to Senator Buck, Kirsten Sear for the record. We're very proud of the Leadership Institute of Nevada, which, if you all haven't heard of it, is an organization that has been providing good to great training for some of our most up-and-coming and rising teachers and administrators, very much driven by the belief that if we bring in the top minds from around the country for our top minds here in Clark County, that we can solve problems, achieve new heights. We know how critical it is to have teacher leaders and quality administrators on our campuses. So the Leadership Institute of Nevada is actually going to be transitioning into its own 501c3 over the next, fairly soon. And we will continue to work together and support each other as best we can. They are focused on leadership training, and we are focused more on meeting the immediate needs of our schools. And so that's why that change is happening. But we remain very supportive of them and will continue to work with them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Doing some great things. Thank you. All right. So we are going to our next item, which is our last item on the agenda. Well, second to last, which is public comment. As a reminder, we're limiting public comments to 3 minutes per person, and you may submit public comments in writing, either in addition to testifying or in lieu of. Information on how to submit comments are available on the agenda, and so we'll start here in Las Vegas. I see somebody here, so let's go to the first person here, and anyone that's online. We're starting public comments, so that gives you time to be able to connect while we're doing these other comments. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis, members of the Interim Standing Committee. I thought on the occasion of having our first in-person interim committee in over 2 years, merited a good news minute. So I want to just briefly talk today about 36 CCSD schools and programs that will be recognized and received a National Magnet School Merit Award for the Magnet Schools of America's 39th National Conference, which will actually be hosted here in Clark County on April 18th to the 22nd. In particular, 14 schools, including Leeds STEAM Academy and Roy Martin Middle School, earned the 2021-2022 MSA School of Excellence Award, which is a top merit award category given to a select group of magnet schools across the nation that have demonstrated the highest level of excellence in all facets. 22 other programs, including my alma mater, Advanced Technologies Academies, and Rancho High School's Academy of Pre-Medicine, earned the 2021-2022 Magnet School of Distinction Award. So I wanted to recognize all these programs for what they've done and the recognition they received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always good to get some good news. Anyone else here in the Las Vegas office wishing to give public comment? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. How about in Carson City? Anyone wishing to give public comment?
Chair, it doesn't look like there is.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go BPS. Is there anyone online that wishes to give public comment?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we've come to the end of the agenda. I want to thank all of you for being here today. It was good to see you in person and be here. And I think we had some great presentations, and appreciate all those that have given presentations today. An archived version of today's meeting will be available online. Our next meeting is currently scheduled for Wednesday, April 20th. I don't have any other items to come before us at this time, so we are adjourned.